water line. We are still having some sewer issues, but it seems that most of those are working fine. But we just ask for your patience. At this time, I'm going to call up Eric Queller to give you an update where we're at, because the threat of rain is imminent, and we're expecting Saturday, something similar to what we had Tuesday, and that can change, we hope. So, Eric.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello and good morning. Eric Queller, Emergency Manager, Village of Ruidoso. So with the forecast from the National Weather Service, we are looking at more possible burn scar flooding over the next couple of days. We're actively in recovery operations, but we're doing this intermittent response as we go through monsoon season. So as we're moving through the recovery process, we're also dealing with response operations as they come with each flooding event. And so it just takes one cell and one bad location to produce floods like what we saw earlier this week. So we are keeping and mobilizing swiftwater resources that are staying in the region. Our partners with the Department of Homeland Security, Emergency Management, New Mexico National Guard are keeping their pre-positioned resources so we can address those needs, along with our Ruidoso Fire Department for any future impacts we may see. Ongoing recovery operations, we have seen an increase of impacted structures over the last 24 hours or since yesterday's briefing. I'll have Mike talk about that here in a second. We're doing our PDAs, or our primary damage assessments, as of this moment. So those numbers will fluctuate between now and probably the next time we will give a briefing. We'll make sure public information has that information so our partners with the media can have that information. With that said, I want to reiterate what the mayor said. We do have an EOC hotline open for any impacted residents within the village of Ruidoso. That's 575-258-6901. If you have any unmet needs, make sure you call that number. We'll work on getting those appropriate resources to the people that have been impacted. For folks that are wanting to donate, we saw this last year during the fires. Southern New Mexico and New Mexico is really great about sharing resources and sending their help this way. We want to make sure that those resources are getting into the appropriate hands. So we have a donation reception center. If you want to donate, you can donate to the donation reception center. This is a reception center. This is not a distribution point. It's going to be at the Lincoln County Humane Society on US 70. We are taking all types of donations with the exception of used clothing. Let me reiterate, used clothing we will not be taking in. If you have a new pair of socks, new pair of jeans, we will happily accept that. But if you have used clothing, we will not accept that at this time. If that changes, we'll let y'all know. The other thing that we want to reiterate is our partners at the Community Foundation of Lincoln County will be taking all monetary donations for this disaster and will divvy it up towards the organizations and individuals needing assistance. So again, the Foundation of Lincoln County, please push that money so we can get those out into the correct hands. So I want to turn it over to Mike to talk about the impacted structures at this time.
Good morning, everybody. Michael Martinez, Deputy Village Manager. So as the mayor mentioned, we are closing Village Hall. The main reason behind that, is Eric's point, is we're doing damage assessments in the field. Initially, we gave numbers of anywhere between 30 to 50 homes that had been impacted. Based on last night's and yesterday's assessments, along with the phone calls that we're receiving for sheltering or for possible a lack of homes, we're looking now to 200 up to 400 homes that have been damaged. With those homes that are being damaged, most of our teams that are doing construction, the permits, that are doing reviews, are actually in the fields assisting. So you will not be able to get to them to request a building permit. What we are going to be doing is saying anybody that is doing work on your property, whether it's cleanup, whether it's trying to rebuild, stop before you do that. Let us know. Call that number that both the mayor and Eric had given you, we need to make sure we walk you through what's called substantial damage. We need to identify what that number is so that we can help you build back appropriately and possibly get qualified for funds that will be able to help you moving down in the future, in the immediate future. So please, please, please let us know. Call that number. We'll have a specialist on the line that can be able to address those calls. You'll get transferred to them. But we are looking at between 200 to 400 homes that have possibly been impacted. We have a significant number of those that might be secondary homes. We don't know yet, but we do have a number of families that have been impacted, possibly up to 100 and 150 families that we're currently tracking. So those are all the items that we're addressing on housing and on home structures, as well as families that have been impacted to date.
You have something?
No, I'm going to go ahead. Good morning, everyone. Ron Senna, Village Manager. Our public works crews are working around the clock. As the mayor stated, we do have water services that are out in certain areas of the village. We have our public works crews out blading roadways, assessing any type of all our bridges, any type of low water crossings. And we will provide the information once with our PIO. We're putting out all the information. We're doing that. I mean, it's constantly that our public information officers are sending out that information. So we are working hard. We're working around the clock. Crews they understand the urgency of getting the utilities back on, and we will continue to work hard on it to provide the water. As the mayor stated also, we have the distribution points to provide water. They can call the number, the EOC number, and if we need to, meet somebody there or just be able to help out anybody, we're here to work and assist the village in any manner. So thank you.
So I hope that people understand that while the village is still carrying on current operations, trash pickup, keeping the streets clean, answering the phones, providing water, that we have had a disaster, so a lot of those things have been impacted. So those same people are now in the field doing assessments, repair work. The folks that are at Village Hall that have regular jobs, whether it's in planning and zoning, looking at your construction needs, when you're going to start, those people are helping assess the folks that need a roof over their head. That we need the assessment on the damage, that we accumulate all of these expenses that we turn in for our declaration. Which last night the governor was here. She'll be here shortly. The Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury was here. We had long discussions. We reached out and spoke with Christy Nome, Secretary Nome of Homeland Security, on the funding that we had been promised before that we haven't been able to get access to. We were told that that funding was coming today. Also that the presidential declaration, they saw no hurdles with that should be signed for parts A and B. That changes everything. That opens up federal assistance. So we're working on those things as we speak. Who? Okay. So what we wanted to do was let you know where we're at. Things have changed. After yesterday, it became very apparent that there was a lot more damage than what we had assumed and what we thought in the beginning. And so those things have come in the door. We've had to take a setback to move forward. So we ask for your patience. If you're without water, please go to one of the areas that we mentioned before for potable water. We will have a lot more water any minute that's coming in, and later this day we'll be standing up other resources. If you need a place to go, the community center is ready. In the village, we have the community center in the Downs is ready. Lutheran Church is ready. And we're standing these things up as we go, because before we thought that there were 30 to 40 homes impacted. The folks that were coming in for immediate help were few, and now then there's many. So it sounds like the one, the only, let me hang on just a minute. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham and Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury. Then we have Lieutenant Governor. How are you doing, Howie? Very good to see you. Then Congressman Gabe Vasquez. So welcome, everybody. Governor, would you... before I wanted to introduce, if you can just a minute, our County Commissioner Chairman. I promised him I was going to let him say something today. So do you want... I should let you introduce the governor.
Well, it's too late there, but all I wanted to say... All I want to, I'm going to use this too.
God love you.
All I wanted to say was that Ruidoso, the village, the Downs, is our community too. And it's inside the county. And there's been quite a bit of damage outside the confines of Ruidoso. This is an ongoing event, but you can see here that we've got all the county commissioners here. They're engaged. They're supporting hand in glove the village and the Downs, and our sheriff is here as well. You know, that first night we had the sheriff call out every deputy he has, and we had over, I think, 20, 25 deputies assisting in the search and rescue of people during this disaster. So the county is here. We can continue to work with the mayor, and Jason Burns, our county manager, is here as well. We thank you for your support and your help going forward. And Madam Governor, I didn't disturb your your platform there. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
You got it. I was just happy that someone else was willing to stand up on a box to see.
Use that in the future. Thank you.
I'm actually going to start with that. To this community, maybe a couple of folks who were all suffering, and no one like the people who live here and their families. But smiles and a set of, that confidence that we're all going to get this done together goes a long way. And I think it really does continue to do what you're doing, which is lifting up this community and every single person who lives here, nearby, or even if you live in Santa Fe, and families who are here. And we depend on this community for so much of the benefits for the entire state. So that's number one. This community does more over and over and over again than most communities because of the hardships that have befallen from both Salt Fire, South Fork, and the resulting flooding. And what happens in this cycle, it's a terrible, vicious cycle. We save lives, we respond to the emergency. 65 swift water rescues. Then we start to do the short-term recovery. And given that we're in monsoon season, this pattern repeats itself over and over again. And you can lose hope in a pattern like that. The people of Ruidoso and the leadership here don't ever do that. So I have a three-part job here. One is to tell this entire community how sorry we are. Two, the children, the adult gentlemen that you've lost in this community, unfathomable, unfair, and is the worst of these kinds of disasters. More Americans are lost post-fires in flooding. This is the most dangerous part of both the short-term and the long-term recovery. And you have now suffered those losses. My condolences on behalf of the whole state to that family. I wish the father a speedy, full recovery, and to his wife, who is supporting that journey, her own emotional journeys. These losses are lifelong, and there are no words that can take away that devastation. But we are truly heartsick and sorry. Two, there are other losses in this community. The number one job is to assess those losses right now, to get every business, big and small, back on its feet to the highest possible return we can, and to give resources in that design. And third, and it's parallel to that, is to get the silt out again, is to manage and mitigate the damages, to protect us from more water that is coming, and to be able to do those in a parallel so that people feel like their lives are getting back on track. Now, how do I know that we can get all of that done, given that we believe it's going to rain tomorrow? A couple of reasons. One, the federal government has directly reached out. That is incredibly important and very valuable. It's as important as having your governor here, your lieutenant governor, your congressional delegation, the general of the New Mexico National Guard, because your local leaders haven't slept, nor should they, but they haven't. They've been on the ground doing the work every minute of every day. And what they deserve is a team coming in telling you that whatever you ask for, whatever you need, whatever we can and should do, will get done. Well, the federal government should do that too. The larger part of the resources will come from the federal government. Secretary Noem from the Homeland Security is, I think, intending on coming to this community. That says a lot. 2, is really clear about money that was never received by the community that should have been. That's $12 million. That helps us do all the rest of the levee work that really needed to be in place because of the amount of water and how fast it moves coming off those burn scars. We want to make sure that you've got wastewater treatment system that's secure. We want to make sure you got clean drinking water. We want to make sure that we're developing and garnering resources for individuals and families. All of it. She's also assured us that they are now fronting money, which is not something that FEMA does particularly. It's all based on reimbursements. We got to figure it out, then they reimburse us. It says a lot to me as a governor that the federal administration is putting money out here, out front. And we threw around a number. It's not a number that we know for sure yet. So I make sure I'm saying that. It's not, I don't have it in writing and I don't have the check. But they're making the kind of outward, right, commitments that are very valuable of about $3 million. That's $15 million quick. When I mean quick, I expect them to hand me a check in an airport somewhere. I'm teasing. As you know, it'll all get wired. I promise I'm not that old. But we will get resources really moving quickly. That's $15 million from the federal government quick. The reason that happens is the congressional delegation have been on the phones and in the offices of our counterparts at the federal level, and I just want to personally thank you for making sure that happened. As a result, we expect the federal declaration to be signed shortly, today. Until it's signed, we're all guessing, but all of those kinds of early, quick commitments certainly are telling about the intent of the federal government to declare a national emergency so that we get all the other resources that come to continue to help us today, tomorrow, and for whatever the weather brings over the next several days, weeks, and months ahead. The last thing I want to tell you is that I work with a lot of communities. And there isn't a community in New Mexico where New Mexicans are not resilient and incredibly strong. They're proud of who they are and where they live. They accept any of those kinds of risks, and they just literally, with positivity, power through. But in addition to that, which you have in spades here, you need local governments that can do the work. And not everyone is in a situation where that readily comes. Working with Mayor Crawford in particular, and working with your county and your first responders, your electeds and local officials. The contractors are here, the expertise is here, they have this emergency operations center. They are already, before we get on the ground from the state, assessing damages so that they can do the declaration. They have contracts in place. This team is a team I actually go to train other communities to respond to their disasters. That is not how it is. It should be. The gold standard here in Ruidoso ought to be the standard in every single community, and we should dedicate our work to making sure they all get there. But I want this community to know. I mean, we're all raw. No one rawer than the people who witnessed it, who lived here, who lost their homes, who lost their properties, and who can't go to work and whose businesses are not yet open. No one suffering in that regard. Not the same. But when we are on the ground and see that stuff is already happening and getting cleaned up and getting reopened, it is an incredible sign of the kind of recovery that's possible. And this is my last thing. I've spoken way too long. While we're all grieving I need to make sure, and I feel like I've got that from the mayor in particular in the county. There are opportunities here. We have to think about not just this weekend and the following weeks. We need to think about the next decade or two. And we need to think about the opportunities that are here because of the people who live here. And we need to lean in and invest in every single one of those opportunities. And you have my commitment to make sure that the state components, that we meet every commitment and we do everything in our power to not just rebuild, but to create opportunities for your families for the next several generations. Thank you for having me today. And with that, I would like to ask the Lieutenant Governor, Howie Morales, to also share a few words. And I can leave the box for you, too. Okay.
First of all, I'd like to begin by saying thank you, as the governor mentioned, to our city officials. Mayor, thank you for the communication yesterday. Our county commissioners, all of our first responders, our law enforcement professionals, our National Guard, who never hesitates to be ready for the call when it comes. So we're grateful for that. You know, when we see the impact that it has to us here in the state, it goes far beyond that. I just received a newspaper article in Argentina talking about the impact that is what's happened here in Ruidoso. And while we see that we've, in many ways, have had to deal with this, whether it's flooding or fires that happen in the northeast part of the state, whether it took place in Doña County or here in Ruidoso, we've had to work all too often to deal with these type of emergencies. And I just have to say that I'm extremely grateful, and the governor gave a lot of credit to a lot of people, but I want to take time to specifically say thank you, Governor, for your action. It was 10 o'clock at night when you got the information out, quickly moved on an emergency declaration, quickly got in response with our federal delegation, and ensuring that we can get as many resources as possible. And that's leadership. Your calm leadership during chaotic times is truly admirable, and I'm proud to be here to work with you, Governor. As we see the impact that's taken place, you know, I'm here in Lincoln County quite often. My kids are very involved, very active. And I can remember being at the softball fields and seeing my daughter playing and not even recognizing the field as I drove by a little while ago. Seeing an actual vehicle inside a home because of the power of the water. Those things leave an impact. And I have to say that because of the collaboration that we have here, not only at the local level, working with the state, but especially grateful for our collaboration that we have with our federal delegation. You guys are out there fighting day in and day out and still making time to make sure you're on the ground. I think that's a testament to the teamwork and the collaboration that we have and our leaders in New Mexico, so thank you for that. When we see where we go forward, there's a lot of uncertainty, and we recognize that. We don't know what the weather's going to hold for the next week, but we do know that we have a team with our local leadership that's going to make sure that people are safe, that they're going to be notified in a timely manner just as they did, and to ensure that we reduce any loss to lives. Unfortunately, we did lose 3, and we hope that that is all that we lose. But we recognize as a community that we come together, and that is what makes us special here in the state of New Mexico, is wherever we're impacted, people from all parts of the state come together to make sure we're taking care of one another. And by taking care of one another, I want to make sure I can turn this over now to an individual who's out there to ensure that there's still a lot of resources, a lot of dollars that are out there that are due to us from past devastations, that we get every single penny that comes in that our New Mexicans deserve. So at this time, I'd like to recognize and welcome Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury to the podium to share the work that's being done at the federal level on your behalf.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury, and I represent New Mexico's 1st Congressional District that includes 10 counties, including all of Lincoln County and the village of Ruidoso. And I'm so honored to be joined by our governor, our lieutenant governor, city leadership, village leadership, as well as county leadership, and by my colleague, Gabe Vasquez, who traveled many thousands of miles to come here and be here for the community. Gabe's district, Representative Vasquez's district, includes much of Mescalero and Chavez and Otero County, and I have much of what's north on this side of the mountain. And as you can see, this is a unique experience in terms of the amazing way in which New Mexicans rally for our people. And I can tell you that what is happening here in Lincoln County in the emergency response and the long-term recovery is a testament to what it means to be a New Mexican. We are strong, we are resilient, we mobilize our communities, and we get out there and we help people. And that's who we are, that's what we do, and that's why we're here today. I want to say to the families who have lost their loved ones and who have lost their homes, it is unimaginable. Our hearts are breaking. For the gentleman in El Paso who is still in the hospital grieving his children who were lost, we cannot imagine the unfathomable grief that that family is going through right now. So we want to extend our condolences as a state, as the leadership of our communities, to that family, to the family that lost their loved one as well here, who is a resident of Ruidoso, and to the families who've lost their homes. Just a couple of blocks down the road here on Gavilan Road, I spent the afternoon yesterday walking around a mobile home park, and I can tell you there are dozens of families who have lost absolutely everything. I met a family who literally their trailer had washed hundreds of yards down the stream bed, and everything in their home is decimated. They lost absolutely everything. There was nothing salvageable in their home. They didn't even know where they were going to sleep that night. They hadn't even figured it out yet. We met the manager of the mobile home park who literally was sitting on his porch and didn't know what he was going to do the rest of the day because he couldn't stay in his home last night. But he had woken up after his dog got washed down the river and found his dog sleeping on the porch, and had spent the day, even though he didn't know where he was going to sleep last night, on a front-end loader helping his neighbors undig. I met some members of the community, a bunch of young girls who had a pickup truck who were out there at the trailer park helping people load things into their truck. And when I asked them, you know, did they have family members or friends there, they said, no, we just came to help. The owner of a local business who was distributing food to people who were recovering. This is what communities do when they experience this kind of loss. And it's not only a testament to the leadership and community that has been created by both the village leadership and the county leadership here, but it is a testament to the resilience of New Mexicans. And so I want to say to everyone out there, whether it is our first responders and the incredible coordinated federal, state, local effort to save lives, to recover, and to make sure that people are going to be safe tomorrow, over the weekend, in the next several years, whether it's rebuilding this village and the county, there is no other better example of what it means to really rise to the occasion. And I also want to join our Lieutenant Governor in thanking the governor for leveraging her leadership and her relationships to help New Mexico, because I don't think it was a given, especially given everything that we see going on nationally, that we were going to see our federal partners step up to the plate. And not only are they stepping up to the plate, they've deployed emergency crews to help with search and rescue. They are sending emergency money to help us. And as the governor said, we are expecting a national disaster declaration to be signed today. That happened because of our governor. So I want everyone to know that she's here on the ground, not only consoling our community, but she helped to unlock the resources we're going to need for this community. So there's really two pieces, I think, to the emergency response and the long-term recovery that's important to know. You know, over the coming days, we are expecting additional rain. There are homes and people that will be in harm's way. Just behind you in the rooms over here is the Coordinated Emergency Response Center. It is one of the most sophisticated, well-oiled machines I've seen in terms of emergency response, and aptly led by our local first responders alongside our National Guard. We will protect New Mexicans, but if you live here in Ruidoso, follow the emergency evacuation orders. We cannot lose another life. So it's really important over the coming days that everyone follow those emergency orders. And we're going to do everything we can to get dollars, humans, and rescue folks on the ground to make sure that we protect our community. As the governor said, we're hoping to get emergency money and also money that had been promised to the village here as quickly as possible to help desilt the riverbed so that the impacts are lessened. And we're trying to unlock additional money to help with recovery. But to also illustrate the all hands on deck, I talked this morning to tribal council leadership at Mescalero. Everybody is helping this community. Water trucks delivered. I met folks from the Lions Club in Carlsbad who drove up yesterday in pickup trucks to help out folks in need. This is really an all hands on deck effort. But the emergency response is today, tomorrow, the rest of the monsoon season. But we're going to need help, support for our families and communities for the next decade, because it's going to take a lot to recover this community. They have experienced catastrophe after catastrophe. The impacts to the racetrack, if you haven't seen them, are catastrophic. That is $150 million in the local economy a year. You cannot replace that overnight. And so our ask to everyone out there who cares about the people of Ruidoso and New Mexico is we're going to need you over the coming years, and please help us continue to support this community. And finally, I'll just say we have extraordinary leadership. You don't always see the alignment of leadership from the federal to the state to the county to the local, but we are fortunate to have one of the best local governments here in Lincoln County and Ruidoso. And so, Mayor, hats off to you. You've done an extraordinary job, and your team, and to our first responders here. And with that, I'm going to turn it now to my colleague, Representative Gabe Vasquez, Representative New Mexico's 2nd Congressional District. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, I'm about 6'1" now. Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everybody. I'm Congressman Gabe Vasquez, and as you all know, Lincoln County, Ruidoso was part of the 2nd Congressional District over the course of many decades. Most importantly for me, and for a lot of folks from southern New Mexico and West Texas, this was our Disneyland. This is our Disneyland. And not a lot of kids got the opportunity to go very far away from home, but Ruidoso was the place where you could come and you could fish, you could decompress, you could go camping for the first time. And we want to make sure that this community continues to be not just a gem for southern New Mexico, but for surrounding areas in the entire state. And so this means more to this community than just this disaster, but this hub, this gem of activity and economic opportunity for folks that has brought so many visitors here, and that's invited a great quality of life for so many for so long. So I also want to start by thanking the incredible coordination and the efforts of our first responders, the National Guard, our utility workers, local folks who came out and did some of the unimaginable things, jumping into the floodwaters to save both people, property, and pets. I want to thank the mayor specifically and the governor for their quick and close coordination. As we see natural disasters play out across the country, and we see mixed responses to those disasters playing out, and even right here in the state of New Mexico, I think it's been echoed by our community leaders and by our elected officials that the coordination here is truly one that's exemplary for how to handle this type of disaster. But the work is not over. It's simply not. And so mine and Congresswoman Stansbury's job, as well as the New Mexico Congressional delegation, are unified in our request to President Trump to approve this emergency declaration as quickly as possible. And I want to emphasize this point because we've experienced some natural disasters in southern New Mexico over the last several years and over the last several months that have been compounding. And so this emergency declaration isn't just limited to Lincoln County, but it also includes Otero County. It includes Grant County. It includes Valencia County. And so those federal dollars that will come in to help us rebuild, to help with mitigation efforts, are going to be part of a larger effort to combat some of these wildfires that we've had, to make sure that we have adequate infrastructure, like levees in places like Valencia County, and certainly the infrastructure that we need here to make sure that people and property are protected. And so this is the new reality that we live in. Our job as the folks that you trust to lead your communities is to make sure that we bring every single dollar and use it appropriately with the guidance from the local community to protect businesses and to protect local economies, to protect people. That's what we are here to do. And I am confident, as the governor mentioned, that we will have this disaster declaration signed, hopefully as early as this morning, perhaps later today, which will trigger some much needed federal funding. I think overall we're looking at something like $50 million in the cost just for recovery here in Lincoln County based on some of the estimates that the governor's office has put together. And so that's going to require a huge portion to come from the federal government. And I am committed, along with Congresswoman Stansbury, to making sure that those dollars make it here, because that's really, really important. And moving forward, as we work with the National Forest Service, as we work with Mescalero Apache Reservation, local governments, we all have to continue to work together to make sure that we are all playing our part, and that this interjurisdictional issues that we sometimes have, that we can put those aside and make sure that we act quickly on behalf of the people, that we act quickly to mitigate future catastrophes such as these, and that we avoid the tragic losses that we have seen here. I was driving up here this morning, and I was reading the story of the family who was deeply impacted, and looking at a photo of the young children who unfortunately lost their lives here. And it is so heartbreaking to see that those lives were cut short in such a tragic event that we hope to prevent in the future, because nobody should have to go through that. Nobody should have to suffer through that. And if you can just imagine, that type of panic and fear that sets into a family when this type of event happens, it is truly unimaginable. And so for those folks that are grieving their loved ones, for that extended family, for the other gentleman who lost his life here, we are all with you to support you. I know this community will come together to support them in their time of need, as well as the Fort Bliss military community as well, and the community of El Paso. So I also want to thank Representative Veronica Escobar, because she was on the phone with us asking what she could do from El Paso, and using her power as a congressperson representing El Paso to make sure we got our disaster declaration as well. So it even extends beyond our congressional delegation and down to our neighbors in El Paso. And that's the type of community that this is. We will come together. We will find solutions to these problems moving forward. But right now we have to focus on the rapid recovery, and I'm committed to doing that alongside with my colleague. My office has been assisting in every way possible since we first heard news that the flash flood was occurring here. And look, the reality is that we have to be prepared not just in Ruidoso, but again in other counties for future natural disasters, as we are right in the middle of both fire season and monsoon season. And so we have to make sure at the state and federal level we have the adequate resources to be able to handle this in other communities, and understand that this perhaps is no longer going to be a historic event, but it could be something that we have to face year after year. And that's going to take a lot of input from local folks, and that's going to take a lot of funding. And that's what we're going to prioritize in our work in Congress to make sure that happens. And that includes full funding for the disaster relief program, which is on the chopping block. And we are asking for full funding for that, because that is the fund that helps with personal compensation to victims of natural disasters as well as post-recovery. So we're going to continue to do our work in Congress on behalf of this beautiful state and this beautiful community that we represent. Thank you all.
Okay, and I know that this area is special to the congressman. I've been to his office in Washington, D.C. He's an amateur photographer, and I've seen pictures of Ruidoso, Lincoln County, where he's out hiking. So they're telling us the truth, and I want to thank you guys for being so highly motivated to make this a success, because we do have a long journey to go ahead. So we appreciate you being here with us. General, I know that you've got a Blackhawk tour here in a minute, so they can see overhead. Do we have any time, or you need to go?
I think we've got time.
Okay. So we still want to answer a few questions, but we do have your county commissioners here. I want to make sure everybody knows who the new county manager is, Jason Burns. And so if we're ready, we'll take a few questions. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Cormac Dowd of the Santa Fe, New Mexican.
A little louder, please.
Cormac Dowd of the Santa Fe, New Mexican. So on the federal disaster aid, maybe this is a question for the governor, but when do we expect that to be coming? Do we expect the president to sign a federal natural disaster declaration today. Is that right?
Yeah, you answered your own question. I love that.
I have another one.
Oh,
So how much are we expecting, at least initially?
so again, the overarching way in which FEMA and the feds work is it's based on meeting a threshold of damages and then having a reimbursement to local governments and assistance to individuals for both economic and personal losses. This time, they're saying that they will advance anywhere from $0 to $3 million, understanding that we have an emergency, we have actual losses in the tens of millions, if not more, for just the immediate losses, none of the long-term mitigation and recovery. So these things, just for people who are watching, these are hundreds of millions of dollars. Many disasters are billions of dollars. And we start with the immediate, saving lives, redirecting fast-moving water, dealing with communications, and then making sure people have places to stay, food to eat, that they have the right personal all that those are our short-term efforts. Long-term, it's rebuilding everybody's lives and the community. So $3 million out of FEMA. We have money. It wasn't allocated early. And the administration has assured us that that money will also make its way. So $15 million quick to jumpstart these efforts. State money, we have already declared our disasters, so we're bringing in resources, the same thing. I'm here with the delegation. Tell me how much it is and where it goes. So we're rolling all of that up right now. But this community should expect in the next day and days and weeks, tens of millions of dollars making its way over coming months, 100 million or more. And overall, we got a long way to go. We're talking about sizable resources to recover this community. I want to make sure that you know that. But we checked the White House log, the Congresswoman did, as we were walking in. But we're all feeling incredibly confident that that's going to get signed. I want to point out, it is not a political statement. That you have to meet a threshold. Small communities, even with devastation, don't always meet the thresholds. It is federal law. So it's a question, and you don't always meet the threshold, and you sometimes have a White House that doesn't deem it to be a national emergency. And in this administration that has happened, and it has happened in other administrations. Today, we are getting every signal that that is not going to happen out of this federal administration, and that they're already working on getting money to us immediately. That is a very good sign.
I just want to add quickly, this is going to be likely an just if it's okay.
Yeah,
Governor.
please.
I think it's really important for folks to know that this is likely to be an ongoing disaster. The village actually asked for a federal disaster declaration 2 weeks ago because of flooding just a few weeks ago, and it got rolled into the current request for this flood. But as you all know, it's monsoon season, and because of the burn scar on the mountain and the shape of these canyons, we could see ongoing flooding. And just like was experienced last year, just as soon as families dug out, another flood hit. And so it's important that folks know that this is not a one-time event. It could continue to occur, and we have notified the federal government and Secretary Noem that we may need ongoing support.
Jim, thank you for that. Yes, sir.
Joan Barros, KOAT. I just wanted to confirm, you said that $3 million is coming from FEMA, $15 million, where's that?
12 million is coming out of USDA.
USDA?
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's the 15 total.
And then over time, potentially, we could see $100 million.
Yeah, and I just threw that out as a ballpark because, and I did it for this reason.
Okay.
When you assess the damages for homes lost, for infrastructure that must be repaired, for mitigation for future water, and just that kind of effort is $100 million. We're redoing a water system for the city of Las Vegas, and it's well over $200 million. So I think it's sometimes really valuable, and I appreciate your asking and writing about it, for people to know it's so much money, which is why the federal part is so critical because there's a ton of states don't have those resources, and so they can't rebuild. This state has resources. Federal government's going to give us their resources. It gives us confidence to tell you and the community those resources are coming. I do want to do one more thing based on your question that I didn't do a very good job. The mayor, the county, your first responders, and this, we sometimes do it unilaterally from the state, and I'm really proud of that. And when I say unilaterally, I get the credit, and the General Aguilar, moves equipment and personnel in advance of weather and other high-risk issues. This community didn't just wait for us to do that. They were doing it well in advance of last week and before. There was already guard personnel here. There's already equipment here. Sometimes we can't remove the debris for days. We can't open a road. We can't repair a bridge because we're just finished, and not really finished, fighting fires in Grant County. And so these personnel are deployed everywhere. I got flooding in many communities, not like this. But it can be a minute before everybody recoalesces to the next emergency. We were already here, and the feds, before the amended declaration, already sent swift water folks here. That is important because, God forbid, we could have lost more lives. God forbid, we could have lost more children. And it is really, I think, valuable to know that this community was as ready as you can be. None of us know. And with climate change, Mother Nature is rarely in these issues our friend. And it's a massive set of risks that we work to eradicate, frankly, and mitigate. And so I want folks in this community to know there were people here. There have been people here for weeks, and we're not going anywhere. And all the contracts, the other equipment, all the experts are also already here in this community. That's a game changer for rebuilding. That's not the case, unfortunately. I have to tell my members of Congress in every community.
And you guys are expecting that 3 and 12 to be arriving as soon as possible?
I mean, I would literally say, like, I'm teasing. I'm going to call my Department of Finance and Homeland Security and ask them to look in the bank account in 15 minutes. My expectations, when the secretary calls you, that is not something that always happens. Okay, she called me. She reached out, and then we were playing phone tag. Also, if you miss a call from the President of the United States or one of the secretaries, they have a lot of calls to make. Typically, you're done. You get a voice, you move from there. The administration kept reaching out. This gives me every signal that when they say money is freed up and being made available, it's immediate. And for me, immediate is yesterday. So when that money hits the accounts, the local community will know. We'll put that out there.
Thank you, Governor, but I think they wanted to talk to you. They know where I live. So if we could take a few more questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Algernon from the Albuquerque Journal. Mayor, do you have any consolidated estimates of how many rescues there have been from National Guard and swift rescue teams and all these agencies so far, and whether you are still more on the footing of search and rescue and recovery, or are you able to focus more on positioning for the rains that are coming?
Eric, can we get the emergency manager over here? He's on top of that all
We
the
have
time.
65 just from this last storm, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And you don't need that.
No, I'm sorry. So just to reiterate your question, confirming the number of rescues that happened over the last couple of days, and then what we're doing for the future. Just your question? Okay. So as they said, yes, 65 rescues, and we are nearing the search and rescue phase for this operational period is coming to a conclusion. So we've moved out of the village of Ruidoso. Teams from the county have picked up from the county line and the Ruidoso jurisdictional line, and they're moving out into the county. They should be wrapping that up here within this operational period. As we move forward to the next operational period over the next coming days, working with our federal partners with the National Weather Service, we are predicting that we will have rains move into the area. We're not concerned mostly with the amount of rain. It's how much rain we get in a short period of time. So if we have one bad cell pop up over a burn scar and produce 1 inch an hour, we will have issues. So working with our partners with the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, the Governor's Office, and the National Guard, we do have both local, county, state, and federal resources on the ground to help relieve some of our efforts at the local level and to provide further capabilities as we move through monsoon season. Monsoon season ends September 30th. That's a long way away from now. So just to reiterate that we will continue in a ready state posture for anything that does come our way. Thank you for your
I'd like to give
question.
you a little more credit
Yes,
on
ma'am.
the other question that you asked, which the search and rescue. Correct me, but two things that they've done incredibly well. One, they have staff at the local hospital. So if people are still trying to connect with loved ones or questions, they've got folks there. So it's not just checking to see if a family member's been admitted or checked in or checking ambulances coming. Their team is there. And two, they have a hotline. As we were talking yesterday, we're reconciling. We have not found one individual that's been that the family is not connected. That is both. We want to make sure that family gets right the security that they need. That we're doing everything to locate and put that family back together. It's also good news. Typically, with a kind of storm, 3 inches and a quarter inch in that amount of time is a lot of water. And a lot of people were in that water as it was moving through this community. They did a lot of work to get people notice, to move them. They were talking to them early in the day, well before the storm. That's incredibly important work. And that hotline, which you may want to say, is up and running. So I think they're actually fairly through that search and rescue. Here's an area that's also very painful. It's an oddity for someone like me to mention when you have loss of life, and those families are dealing with that right now and in the community. There are people who've lost their horses and livestock and their pets, and they're grieving that. And I understand that grief. I think this community does. They take that very seriously. So this is a community that as they're cleaning and mitigating, they're also looking and they're reuniting pets with their families. People are taking pets in. They have pet shelters. All of that's happening. We did lose, was it one horse? 8, no, but one at the racetrack.
Yeah.
That's what I got wrong. See, that's why I need the mayor who knows this stuff, because he's doing it, and the county. He's just right over there. Every single minute of every single day. Those people who lost those 8 horses are suffering today, too. It's a terrible tragedy in a number of ways, but I think they're nearly through. And so it's really about now mitigating so we don't have loss of life, loss of property, any losses as more water comes. And we're all praying that we get enough moisture somewhere else off the burn scar. That water is welcome. Water over the burn scar, not so much. So, but we're prepared to the highest degree possible. And I just wanted to thank them, because that's also not how it gets deployed in too many communities. And I'm not picking on, I'll pick on a state that's not in a disaster right now, Maine. It doesn't roll out this way. It should. Disasters and emergencies are hard. You're predicting and you're planning, and it's a million partners with a million different jurisdictions and individual jobs, and they have to do it without making a single mistake or somebody gets hurt in real time, both before, during, and after the disaster. This community does it better than I think any community in America, and it doesn't mitigate, I know, the feelings of loss at all. But it's important to know that I think this ought to be a model for other communities. And maybe we can learn and we can change the federal law so that more stuff happens up front. More levees, more diversions, more concrete in places where we need it, more replanting of forests, more work to restore the burn scars. We have a tendency in this country to save that for much later in the way in which the reimbursements work, because seedlings wash away. But we're smart. There are other things that we could be doing that mitigate the risk at the burn scars and watersheds. And so this is a community that I think is going to change those things for the entire country. And I'm really proud of that. And I know it's not enough to take away people's personal losses, but I hope it gives confidence that we're doing everything that we can. I do. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know they've got to go. They're going to look at the damage overhead so they get a better feel, because you really understand that. The number for the, if you're missing someone, is the 575-637-0398. And again, for all other non-emergency numbers to find out, get information, whatever, 575-258-6901. And again, the governor mentioned the hospital. We have a liaison that's embedded with us. Brad, they're right here with us. We have our partners with ENMU. I see our representative from PNM, Zia Gas. Everybody is hands on deck. So I want to thank everyone for everything that you've done. Chairman, you want to say something? Because a lot of this is, we're talking about village, but as soon as we did a declaration, they did a declaration, went to the governor's office. She scooped it on up and went to the president's desk. So come on up and say something if you'd like, Mr. Fisher.
I want to thank you, Governor, and our congressional representatives. It's critical. I just want to say that the county is in lockstep with this disaster. We're engaged in every way possible. Anytime our road crews are out there, the sheriff's office is out there in the recovery phase now, as well as all of our staff. But thank you for all of you being here. I'm sorry. We have 7 volunteer fire departments in the county. All 7 of them were alerted during the flood, and they were involved in rescue and recovery, and they're still out there. So we really appreciate our relationship with the village and all the victims, and we're very, very pleased with your leadership and what you're trying to do for this community. And we're very much interested in the mitigation part of it, and we'll have more discussions about that later on. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just on a personal note to the governor, in June, on the 17th, when she came down, she made some bold statements that I thought was baloney, to be honest with you. She's followed through on them. And so she's kept her word. And so we have believed that these folks are going to continue to do what they did to keep their word. People hold us accountable. We hold them accountable. We hold each other accountable, because we have to do a good job when they get us the money. So thank you, Governor, for keeping your word. Mr. Morales, we appreciate everything that you do. You always have so many kind things to say about our Lincoln County and the residents in it. So we appreciate what you do. General, thank you. He was here on the ground immediately, called me as soon as the skies broke loose and had people on the way. So that's a great relationship we have. We have the mayor of the city of Ruidoso Downs and his staff here. So everybody is working together. So I know that it's a rough time, so please be patient. The village will be closing down now, and then our folks are going to be working here until we're able to get our footing. Then we'll have Village Hall back open. But regular services will be ongoing. It's water, things of that nature. So call, and we will get to you as soon as possible. So thank you, everybody, for attending, and continue prayers. We got to get air conditioning.